Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello dear learners, welcome to the session of Managerial Economics. I am Dr. Supriya Jain, working as an assistant professor in the Institute of Business Management at GLA University, Mathura. So, let us look at the topics which we have covered in our previous session. We have talked about business cycle, and we have seen that business cycle refers to the up and down movements of economic activities taking place in the economy, refers to as business cycle. And these up and down movements are usually being measured in terms of GDP or GNP. So, whenever there is a change taking place in the economy, right, regarding the economic activities, we usually refer it that happens due to the change in the business cycle. To understand the phases of business cycle, we have talked about that we have studied it into 4 different phases. We have expansion phase, peak phase, then we have contraction phase, and we have trough phase. So, expansion phase, as we all know, is a desirable phase for the consumers as well as for the producer, because during this phase the demand in the economy increases, investment increases, which increases the employment opportunities in the economy, and when employment increases, income of the consumer increases, which further leads to the increase in demand, right. So, everything increases in this expansion phase, and whenever this increase taking place, economy reaches to the point where further expansion is not possible, and we reach to the highest point, which is known as peak. Now, after this point, economy will face a downward turn, right. Slowly the things goes down, right, and that happens because of again when we reach to the level of full employment, right, when the factors of production cost increases, which increases the cost of production, right, and with this increase in the cost of production, maybe prices will increase, and when the increase in the prices will take place, then again this increase in the prices will affect the demand in the economy, right. So, this is a kind of a circle and the synchronization effect which we usually see in the economy. So, that happens in the contraction phase where the demand decreases, and when the demand of the product decreases, production goes down. With the decrease in the production, there is an increase in the unemployment rate. Therefore, the income which people were earning earlier will not be able to earn income much, and further they will demand less, right. So, we reach to the point where further contraction is not possible, and that point is called as trough. Now, again the economy will see an upward turning phase, and it will try to recover, right. So, these are the different phases which takes place in the economic activities, which is also known as business cycle, or we also call them as a trade cycle. So, importance of these phases we have discussed, and we have also understood that if the economy is going right, if we are going up, this is the basic law of nature, right. If something is going up, then it is bound to go down, and that happens again in the case of economic activities also. And what happened during these phases, those effects we have covered, right. What happened during the expansion phase, as we have seen, whenever there is an expansion taking place in the economy, then 2 things usually comes, that is the inflation and the competition, right. Because this expansion phase will increase the demand of the commodity, and with the increase in the demand of commodity, there will always be increase in the prices, right. Money supply in the market will increase, which will increase the prices of the commodity, which leads to inflation, right. So, we also used to say that the inflation is the indicator of growth, or you can say inflation is the byproduct of expansion, right. And we have also seen the effect of contraction phase, like if when the economy goes down, then economy has to face the situation of opposite to inflation, we have deflation. When there is a lesser demand in the market, then price of commodity reduces. Suppliers try to reduce their prices of the commodity, so that they can stimulate the demand, or they can at least will be able to survive in the market, right. And because of this contraction phase, we have also seen that some of the supplier who have produced their products in excessive quantity. So, they face the problem of excessive inventory, which is again a problem, right. Now, they have to maintain this excessive inventory which has already been there with them. and usually in the contraction phase retrenchments also take place, because there is a lesser demand in the market, producer needs to produce less and they require lesser factors of production which retrench people from the organization, right. And then lastly we have talked about the controlling factors, right. What controlling measures can be taken up to minimize the effect. Definitely we cannot stop these phases to come to happen, right, but what all can be done is to take preventive measures so that the minimizing effect can be taken up, right. So, there are some precautionary measures which are taken up by the firms, because firms are the main, and then definitely as we know government is responsible for taking care of whatever the changes taking place in the economy. Therefore, government also plays a very important role and they try to control the effect of these cycles taking place in the economy by the way of monetary and fiscal policy. So, this was our discussion which we have done in our previous class, and why I have explained this all you in detail, because here in this lecture we are going to talk about the theories behind these business cycle, why the economy goes into the expansion phase and how this contraction phase appears, right. So, those theories will help you to get the clear understanding of reasons behind the cycles of business, right, or the theories of you can say that these are the theories of trade cycle which will help you to understand the causes. Okay. So, let us look at the learning objective of our today's class, where you will be able to examine the intricacies of business cycle and causes of such cycle, right. So, this is important for us to know how this business cycle takes place and why we move from the expansion to the contraction phase, right, and how this expansion or the recovery phase comes again. So, here you will be able to develop a critical understanding of the various theories of business cycle. So, let us start with the very first theory. Okay, before we start with the theories, let me tell you what all theories we are going to cover here. We will start with the Hawtrey monetary theory of business cycle. Then we will talk about the innovation theory, which is given by Schumpeter. Then there is a theory given by Keynes. We have Higgs theory of business cycle. Then we have Samuelson theory of business cycle. We have this Cobb Web theory. So, let us begin with the very first theory. We have this Hawtrey monetary theory of business cycle, right. So, this is the theory given with the name the person who has made out this study named as Hawtrey, right. He believes that the business cycle, the changes in the business cycle taking place because of the money supply in the economy. So, let us start and understand his view of explaining the changes in the business cycle. So, as we know, according to him, monetary policies plays a critical roles in the depression, right. Whenever there is a depression in the economy, then these monetary policies plays a very important role, the supply of money plays a very important role. So, this theory is basically the product of supply of money and the expansion of credit. And definitely we need to understand that from where the supply of money is going to come. The supply of money is basically the generation of credit by the banking system in the economy, right. So, this expansion of credit and the other money supply instruments creates a cumulative process of expansion, which in return increases the aggregate demand, right. Whenever there is a more supply in the market, then there is more demand in the market, because people are having more money, they have more income, and with this higher income with them, they will demand more of the goods, they will demand more of the services, which will create the another effect, where in case where in return aggregate demand of the economy will increase, everybody will demand more of goods and services. So, according to this theory, the only cause of fluctuation in the business is due to the instability of bank credit, right. So, this theory believes that because of the instability of bank credit, whatever the changes are taking place, that happens, right. So, it can be concluded that Hawtrey theory of business cycle is basically depending upon the money supply, bank credits and the rate of interest, right. So, let me explain you this theory in detail, how we are going to go with this theory and what are the assumptions of the theory, right. How Hawtrey tried to explain the situations related to the supply of money, and the supply of money is being usually created by the bank, right, and how the bank changes their rate of interest, which affects the different phases in the economy. So, we have some assumptions for this theory. Let us look at those assumptions first. Firstly, we are saying that consumer total expenditure comprises expenditure on consumption and investment. So, this is one thing we have assumed, that whatever the consumers are earning, they are spending it on their consumption of either investment of goods or the consumption of goods of services. So, their expenditure divided into two things, one is the consumption or the other is the investment. Secondly, we are saying that consumers total outlay is the total money income of community, right, whatever the income has been generated in the society. So, that is equals to the consumers outlay. The outlay is the expenditure, right, whatever the consumers are earning, they are spending it either on the consumption of goods or services or the investments, right. And here we also consider that the stock market is very sensitive, lot of changes are taking place, and here we also assume that bank credit plays an important role in the money supply, right. So, this theory is basically on the belief of supply of money in the market, and this supply of money is being created through the banking system, and because of the change in the rate of interest, this expansion and the contraction phases used to happen. So, now if you look and understand the effects of business cycle during due to this hot race understanding, right, what we are saying here, whenever the expansion phase is taking place, as we know that this is the phase where the economy is going up, right, and economy is moving to the upper side. So, what he believes that whenever the banking system have more of the deposits, right, when they have more reserves of cash with them, so what they usually prefer, they prefer to give loan to the people, right. So, and for definitely for providing loans to the people, they have to reduce the rate of interest, right. So, what happened during the expansion phase, because people deposits more of their money into the bank, as we all know, consumers, the income which they are earning, they spend it either on the consumption of goods, and rest of the income they are spending on the investment. And how they are going to make this investment? They are going to make this investment in the financial institutions. So, definitely financial institutions will have more money with them, they have more reserves with them. So, with this more money, what they will do? We have already discussed this in the circular flow of economic activities and income, right. So, this financial sector will try to invest their money in the firms in that particular sector. So, what they will do to attract more firms towards this money, they reduce this rate of interest, and when there is a reduction in the rate of interest, people will demand more of the capital from the bank, they will avail more loan facility, and with this more availment of loan facility, they will try to increase their inventory stock, or they try to increase their size of capital, right. So, when the size of capital will increase, they will invest more into their business, the production will go up, right, and this has been done by all the people in the economy, right, all the producers in the economy, because here the demand is more, the loan which they are getting from the banking institutions, they are getting it on a lesser rate of interest, and because of this they would like to take that loan facility, and they will invest more into their business, and when the investment in the business increases, there will be an increase in the production, right, and then when there is an increase in the production take place, the demand for factors of production will increase, right, everybody will demand them more, because of the production of goods and services you require factors of production, the demand for land will increase, the demand for capital will increase, demand for labor will increase, right, and there will be a point when we will reach to the full employment, right, when economies, all the resources will reach to the full employment stage, and when we will reach to this full employment stage, then what will happen? The price of these factors of production will increase. With the further increase in the investment, the price of these factors of production will increase. Now, what will happen because of increase in the price of production? The price of goods will increase, and when there is an increase in the price, supplier would like to supply more, because that will help them to generate more profit in the economy, right. So, basically looking at all these aspects, when everything is increasing in the economy, investment is increasing, employment rate is increasing, prices are increasing, profit of the suppliers are also increasing. So, we will reach up to the point when where there will be a peak situation, right, economy will reach to this peak point. Now what will happen when price will increase and profit will increase, but here you can see that the demand of capital is continuously increasing because of the decrease in the rate of interest. But now, as because everybody is trying to expand their size of business, the reserves with the bank will go down, right? Whatever the deposits they were having, they will reduce. Now what will happen? These banking institutions are going to reduce their rate of interest, they will increase their rate of interest. The rate of interest which they have reduced during the expansion phase, because they want people to invest more, or they want to give more loan facilities to the people. Now when this peak situation will come, when everybody will demand for more loan from the banking institution, now they will increase their rate of interest, right. Now when the rate of interest will increase, okay, now the firms or the producer will demand less capital, okay, they will take less loan facility, because this rate of increase in the interest will increase their loan on this rate of increase will create a pressure on the firms, because now their production cost will increase, because now they are getting the capital at the higher rate of interest, and all the other factors also like land, like labor, their demand has also increased, and because of that their cost, these factors production cost will also increase. So this will all increase the cost of production for them, right, and this will reduce their profit margin. And because the investment goes down because of the increase in the rate of interest, the producer will produce less, and when there will be a less production taking place, the unemployment rate will increase. When unemployment rate will increase, people were not able to earn income, right, they are left with lesser income, and when there is a lesser income in the economy, then definitely the lesser demand will be there. So definitely after this peak point we gradually move to the recession, and when these things continue happens, we will reach to the position of depression, right. So this is how this money supply in the economy causes this expansion and the contraction phases to happen, right. And with this hot ray theory, we are believing that it happens because of supply of money in the market, and the supply of money in the market is the creation of bank, right, how banking institutions are providing these facilities, right. So we have understood that very carefully, that during the expansion phase these banking institutions are reducing their rate of interest, so that they would be able to give more loan to the to the firms, so that they will get the benefit, and when the demand for the capital increases in the market, they increase the price of these interest, and gradually we will get into the phase of recession and depression, right. And this here we will going to reach up to this trough point when these things continue to happen. Now here when we have seen the economy is going downward and the producers are not going to get any benefits, now there comes the role of the government. As we all know, government is responsible to take care of whatever the changes are taking place. So here rather private producers are not going to invest their money, government will come and invest their money, and they will try to generate employment opportunities in the economy, so that the income will be there for the people, and with this income they would be able to demand goods and services. So gradually after this trough, this recovery phase will take place, right. So I hope the interaction of this theory is clear to every one of you, where we have understood with this understanding of hot ray how the supply of money and the bank created credit facilities will affect the business cycle during the expansion and the contraction phases. Now looking further, we have some of the criticisms of the theory as well, right. Although we have tried to understand why these phases of expansion and contraction takes place, but this theory do have certain limitations. So what are those criticisms of this theory? First, we are saying that hot ray neglected the role of non-monetary factors like prosperous agriculture, inventions, rate of profit and stock of capital. This theory is only based on the belief that this is happening because of monetary reasons, right, because of the money supply in the market. So one thing they are ignoring is the non-monetary factors. So again this is a criticism against this theory. Secondly, it's only concentrate on the supply of money, right, which is not the only factor, right. When we talk about the economy as a whole, when we are including all the macroeconomic variables, so we cannot look at only one factor and to relate the things accordingly. Third point says that increase in the interest rate is not only due to the economic prosperity, but that happens also because of the other factors, like we have seen during the peak phase when there was more investment taking place in the economy, bank increases the rate of interest. So, that is how we understood this theory and related this theory, but that is not always true, right. Increase in the interest rate is not always because of the economic prosperity, it can also because of the other factors which are not being studied here in this theory. The next point says that overemphasis on the role of wholesaler, right. Here we are emphasizing more on the role of wholesalers or the producer, the price at which they are purchasing, and because of the change in the demand and price or income of the people, that how it is going to affect. The next is too much confidence in the monetary policy. This theory has a lot of belief in the monetary policy, and that is the base, actually we can say this is the assumption which they have made, like this theory is based on the monetary policy. And it also neglects the role of expectation, how people are expecting, how producer are expecting returns on their capital. So, that has also not been taken here, and it is an incomplete theory of trade cycle. Looking at the previous criticisms which we have discussed, we can conclude that this theory is an incomplete theory for the trade cycle, right. So, this is one way where Hotray explained how the interaction of these phases taking place in the business cycle. Now, let us look at the another theory which is called as innovation theory, right. Now, like I said, this innovation theory is given by Schumpeter, and with this belief we are going to talk about this theory where Schumpeter says that the phases taking place in the business cycle or the return which a producer is going to get, that is based on the innovation, right. The way you are going to innovate your product, and the more inventions or innovations you are bringing in your product, there will be a change taking place, right. So, innovation theory of business cycle is invented by American economist known as Joseph Schumpeter, and according to this theory, the main cause of business cycles are the innovation. And to understand this innovation better, here we have 5 type of innovations we have classified into. Innovation can be of different type, like introduction of new type of product, right. If you are introducing a new type of product into the market which was not there earlier, right. So, that is being considered to be as an innovation. Second is, if you are introducing a new technique of a product, new way of developing that production, right. So, then also it will be considered as an innovation. Discovery of a new market, right. Earlier you were supplying your product in a specific market, now you have explored the another market for your product. Maybe earlier you were selling your product in your country only, but now you have explored the other market in the other countries where your product demand will be there and you will be able to sell your product, right. So, discovery of new market is also a consideration of innovation. Then finding a new source of raw material, right. If you have find it out that there can be a different source of raw material which can be used, which is not being explored by anybody else, and this source of raw material might help you to reduce your cost and to increase your output base, right. So, that is also a kind of innovation which we consider. And lastly, changing in the organization of industry, right. If you are able to change the organization of industry, like we have discussed, right, oligopoly firms who are very few in the market, when they come together they can make a cartel, right. They can work together and they can enjoy the power of monopoly in the market. So, if you are able to make a change in the organization structure or the structure of the industry, then also we consider it as an innovation, where two firms join together, right, they merge with each other, or they acquire, one firm acquires the another firm. So, if that kind of a change is taking place in the economy, then also we can consider them as an example of innovation. So, in short, what we are saying, as per this theory, we are considering that the phases which are taking place in the economy, that happens because of the expansions, because of the innovations in the economy, and the innovations can be of different types, and here we have classified that into 5 different categories. Now, moving further, looking at how this innovation affects the phases of business cycle. So, again here we have these business cycle phases. So, as you know, this is the expansion phase when the economy goes up, and then we reach to the highest point where we have peak, then slowly this recession comes, and if it will continue, to take place. We are into this depression phase, we reach to the lowest point which is called as trough, and then again there is a turning point which is called as recovery. Now, looking at this innovation, right, whenever there will be an innovation taking place in the economy, definitely consumer will like to accept that product. Okay, if you have understood the need of the customer and based on the need of the customer, if something has been innovated, right, so definitely it will help the increase in the demand of that commodity. And when the demand of that commodity will increase, what will happen? The new suppliers will also try to imitate that innovation, or they try to copy that innovation, right, because there will be an increased demand in the market. Now, looking at the increased demand in the market, the demand for factors of production will increase, because again they will try to produce more, right, and when these factors of production cost will increase, that will increase their profit pricing also, right, the product price will increase, and when this production will increase, this will increase more of employment in the economy, right, employment will increase, and with the increase in the employment, the income of the consumer is increasing. See, here we are looking at the synchronization effect, everything is connected. If one thing will increase, that will lead to the another, and that will lead to the further another variable, right. So, with the increase in the income, the demand of the goods and services will increase, right, and with the increase in the demand, the price of that commodity will increase, because demand will increase the price, and with the higher price, suppliers would like to supply more again in the market, right. So, definitely we will again reach to the point where we will have the highest expansion taking place, and reaching up to this point, further expansion is not possible, right. So, now when the product is becoming popular to everybody and that innovation effect has been stopped, right. Now, people are not getting any a new charm in finding or in buying that commodity, so then definitely there will be a reduction in demand, right, and when there is a reduction in demand, then the supplier will produce lesser product, okay, they will reduce their production. When the production will be reduced, then unemployment rate will be increased. When unemployment rate will increase, income in the market will go down, right, people will earn less income, and when there will be a lesser income, again there will be lesser demand, and when there will be a lesser demand, then definitely the price of goods will go down. So, again this recession and the depression phase will take place in the economy because of the innovation we are talking about, right. So, innovation is what? Innovation, when you bring something new that boost up the demand in the market, right, and when it becomes popular in the market, when people have started using it, they does not want they does not find anything new to it, then definitely the demand of that commodity slowly goes down. So, here comes the effect of innovation to understand the changes taking place in the business cycle, right, and if we want this to happen again, then we continuously need to involve ourselves in this innovation activities where we try to bring something new, and that is why we have seen that in today's time the companies are spending lot of money on the research and development of the product, so that they can continuously explore some new things and new areas for boosting up the demand in the economy, and where they would be able to earn higher profit margins, right. So, let us look at the criticism of this theory of innovation, right, how this innovation theory is being criticized based on the assumptions. The first is that innovation fails to explain the period of boom and depression. Yes, that is for sure. We are definitely trying to understand how this expansion phase and this depression phase takes place in the economy, but the period, how long this period will be, right, how long people will think like this is an innovation or new thing they are getting into the market. So, this period of clarity is not there. Okay. Then innovation may be a major factor of investments and economic activities, but not a complete process of trade cycle. Yes, innovation is definitely going to affect the factor of investment, because if the product is being liked by the people, right. So, definitely there will be more demand, and then more producers will enter into the market, and there will be more investments in the and then economic activities will also increase, but that does not gives you a complete process of the trade. Okay. So, this is what is being ignored in this theory. Then third point says that the theory is based on the assumption that every new innovation is financed by the bank, right, and the other credit institution, but this cannot be taken as granted, because bank finances only for the short term loans and the investment. So, again the period which we were talking about earlier is not clear, because we assume that whatever the capital we are raising, whatever the loans we are taking, that is being provided by the banking institution, and they usually provided for the shorter period of time. So, this is the theory which is being discussed on the basis of innovation. So, now let us talk about the Keynesian theory of business cycle. Let us have a look how Keynes explain this theory, right. What is the factors which motivates the producer to invest in the economy. So, according to Keynes, marginal efficiency of capital, this plays a very important role and depends on the marginal efficiency of capital. They make their investment, and this marginal efficiency of capital depends upon the change in the prospective yield and the supply price of capital goods. Now, looking at this, you can understand that the determinants of private investments, right, whenever a private individual firms make their investments in the economy, that usually depends upon two things. One is the marginal efficiency of capital, and second is the rate of interest. So, here we are not talking about rate of interest, and rate of interest is basically a term which is used for the shorter period of time, right. What will be the rate of interest on the loan provided by the firm. So, they usually make their investment based on the marginal efficiency of capital, what return are they going to get of the investments which they are going to make, right. And again, as you see that marginal efficiency of capital based on two things. One is the prospective income from the capital asset, what you are going to earn from it, and second is the supply price of the capital asset. So, again the supply price of capital asset, we assume it to be constant here, and we are considering that marginal efficiency of capital based on the return which it is going to provide to you, right. And this return is equals to the marginal revenue productivity of capital minus variable cost, right. So, how much you will be able to get return out of the investments which you are making in the economy. Based on that theory, we are going to understand how this business cycle changes, how the effect of these business cycle we are going to understand, right. So, again let us have this look on the business cycle phases, right. So, what we are seeing that marginal efficiency of capital, and marginal efficiency of capital, as we have seen, based on the return it is going to provide. So, when we talk about this expansion phase, right, we also know that in the expansion phase the demand for goods and services are already there. People are demanding more of goods and services. So, because of this increase in the demand of goods and services, now the producer will invest more, because they know that the marginal efficiency of their capital will be more in this phase. They would be getting higher returns because of the higher demands in the market. So, here already the demand is high. Now, this higher demand will attract more producers to the market, where they will make investments, they will make more of the investments, and when there will be more investors in the market, the production will increase. Now, again the effects will be same. When the production will increase, economy will reach to the full employment phase, right, and when we will reach to the full employment stage, the factor cost, the price of these factor cost will increase, the demand for land will increase, demand for labor will increase, demand for raw material will increase, and this increase in the demand will further increase the price of the production, or you can say the cost of production, right. And when the cost of production will increase, definitely the producers are forced to increase the price. But when the production has increased, it has also increased the employment rate in the economy, right. When the producer will produce more of goods and services, and where there will be more demand for labor, then definitely the employment rate will increase, which will further increase the income, right. And with this increased income, people will demand more of goods and services. Okay. So, with the increase in the demand for goods and services, price will increase. So, price has been increased because of two factors. One is the increase in the demand of those goods and services. Second is because of increase in the factors of production, right. So, definitely this increased price is a stimulating factor for the producers, right. They want to supply more on the higher prices, so they will definitely try to sell more and more during this period of time, right. So, definitely what we are talking here is because of the investments, because of the return which they are expecting from their investments, they will invest more during the phase, and this investments will continue to happen till the economy reach to the peak phase, where the further expansion is not possible. Now, when we are at the peak phase, when the economy reaches this peak phase, what will happen? Now, economy will see the downward turning point, right. And why this downward turning point takes place? Because suddenly when the price of commodities will increase and this inflation comes into the economy, there might be a possibility where the demand will go down, right. And when the demand will decrease in the economy, then definitely these producers will invest less, right. They does not want to invest much of their money because they will not expecting much returns from the market. When the economy goes down, when the demand from the consumers started decreasing, right, their investments will go down, and when their investments will go down, the production of goods and services will also reduce, right. When the production of goods and services will reduce, then that will increase the unemployment rate, right. When unemployment rate will be increased, the lesser income will be there with the people. With this lesser income, they will demand further lesser. So, slowly our economy will get into this depression phase from the recession, and slowly and gradually will reach to the lowest point, which is called as trough, right. So, again we have seen this pattern of expansion and contraction taking place in the economy because of change in the investments, and this change in the investments, like I said, based on the marginal efficiency of the capital, and this marginal efficiency of capital is basically the expectations of the investors, what return are they going to get from their investment. So, during the expansion phase they are optimistic, right, they expect higher returns on their investment. So, they invest more in the economy, which leads the economy to reach up to the peak point, whereas this recession phase is the phase where there is lesser demand in the economy. So, they are not very sure how much return they are going to get from their investment. So, they try to invest less money, right, or they try to take out their investments from the market by reducing the production capacity, right. So, definitely the economy will reach to the trough point. So, here you can see that the lot of changes are taking place because of the investment made by the private firms. Here when we reach to the trough point, again the role of government will come, where they are going to make the investment which is known as autonomous investments, right, because here the government try to make investments in the economy which will help in increase in the employment opportunities, because that investment will increase the production, and that production will be taken up by the people of the economy. Because of that, the demand for factors of production will increase, and when there will be a increase in demand, gradually these private firms will also enter into the market and start making their investments to capture that demand, right. So, again with this, effect of investments taking place in the economy affects the cycles of business, right. Now, let us look at the explanation, right, whatever we have talked about under this theory, right. We are saying that economy is in slump, there is a shortage of capital goods. Whenever there is a slump taking place, slump is the another name we call for the trough. So, there will always be a shortage of capital goods, and the autonomous say in the form of the government expenditure helps the economy to recover. Like I said, when our economy reach to this slump point, when we are at the trough point, private investors does not want to make their investment because they are not expecting much return on their capital. So, at that point of time, government will come and make this autonomous investment. Autonomous investment is basically the investment which is done for the betterment of the economy, for the development of the economy rather than to earn profit, whereas private individuals are making investments, or private firms are making their investments with the expectations of getting return out of it, right. Secondly, we are saying for this theory, a unit increase in investment will bring about a multiplier times, right. This will bring the effect of multiplier, like when one is going to invest, the others investments will also increase, other supplier will also come and invest their money because of the increase in demand in the market. So, the investment is multiplying, right, it is growing like that anything in the market. So, which increases the income and employment in the economy. And this upward turning point recovering the economy from depression and putting it on the path of expansion, right. So, here when we have seen that government has taken up this responsibility of autonomous investments, so gradually our economy moved to the recovery phase, and when we are into this recovery phase, the investors will understand the demand in the economy, and to take up that demand, they enter into the economy, which leads the economy to the expansion phase again. So, here we have multiplier effect also, and multiplier is what? Multiplier is the measure of effect of capital investments on the total income. We basically understand this multiplier with the K, and what we say, what change in the income takes place because of change in the investment, right? How much the income of the consumer will change because of change in the investment, right? If there will be a investment making place in the economy, then how the income of the consumer is going to change, right? So, that effect is being studied under this multiplier, and this investment can be made by the government during the recovery phase, during the slump period, the autonomous investment we call it, right. So, this is how we understand this theory of Keynes, which is based on the marginal efficiency of capital, right. So, if we talk about the first three theories which we have talked about, the very first theory which was given by Hawtrey, he believes that the business cycle is basically or the phases of business cycle takes place basically because of the supply of money in the market, right. If there will be a more supply in the market, then economy will be an expansion phase, because here the bank make these supplies available to the people at the lower rate of interest, and after the period of time when there will be more demand for these capital, they will increase this interest rate, and which will reduce the investments in the market, right. Second theory, which is given by Schumpeter, he believes that the business cycles taking place in the economy based on the innovation. The more you will be able to innovate your product, the more will be the demand, and when there will be more demand in the economy, more people will invest in the economy, production of goods will increase, and that will lead the economy to the expansion phase. And once the product become older in the market, when people are not having much demand for that product, then this expansion phase takes place. Then we have talked about this Keynes theory. Keynes theory says that this effect is because of the economic efficiency of capital, right. How much efficiently you are going to get return, how efficient returns are you going to get on the capital which you are investing. Because of this, the investors make their investment decisions, and accordingly the phases of expansion and contraction takes place in the economy. Now, let us talk about this Higgs theory, right. How this Higgs theory is going to help us relate the effects of this business cycle. So, again you can say that this Higgs theory is given by J.R. Higgs, right. He attributed the theory of business cycle by explaining the combined action of multiplier and accelerator, right. In our previous theory given by Keynes, they also talked about the multiplier effect, like what change will take place in the income of the consumer because of change in the investments, right. So, here in this Higgs theory, we are going to understand the effect of multiplier and accelerator together. So, now to make it more clear for all of you, what is meant by multiplier? Multiplier is basically the change in the income to the change in the investment. Like I said, we denote it with K. So, whatever the change has been taken place in the income is denoted by because of change in the investment taking place in the economy. Suppose if there is a change of 100 crores of investment taking place in the economy, and because of this change in the investment of 100 crores increases the 200 crores of income of the people. So, here the multiplier will be 2, right. So, this is how we calculate this multiplier, how much change is going to take place in the income of the consumer because of change in the investments in the economy. And then we have this accelerator, and the value of accelerator we denotes with V, right. And how we are calculating this accelerator? It is basically the change in investment due to the change in the consumption. So, whatever change will be taking place in the investment, right, because of the change in the consumption, because people when increase their consumption in the economy, the demand for goods and services will increase, and because of increase in the demand for those goods and services, the investment will also increase. Producer would like to invest more. So, here we have this effect of multiplier and accelerator, which we are combining together for our study. So, we can say that we have this change in income because of change in investment and change in investment because of change in the consumption. So, these are the 4 things which are being combined together for this study, and they are all related with each other, because when the consumption of goods and services will increase, the investment will increase. When the investment will increase, it will increase the income of the consumer. Because of that, the income will increase, and income will increase further the consumption of goods and services. So, you can see how the effect of this multiplier or accelerator are interrelated with each other. Now, let us look at this theory, and we are saying that this theory is based on warranted rate of growth, induced and autonomous investment, and it is based on multiplier and accelerator, right. What is meant by the warranted rate of growth and induced and autonomous investment, and we have also talked about multiplier and accelerator. Let us look at it. According to Higgs, there are two types of investment. One is known as autonomous investment and the other is called as induced investment. Like I said in our previous discussion also, autonomous investment is usually done by the government and this investment is done with the motive of not to earn profit, right. Here the government motive is not to earn profit on this investment, their motive is to bring prosperity in the economy, because economy is in the downward phase where the private individuals are not ready to make the investment. So, government make the initiative where they come up with the autonomous investment without any expectations of profit returns, whereas induced investments are those investments which are made with the expectations of return on it, and that is usually been made by the private firms, right, because whatever the investments they are making, they are always looking for the profits or return on their investment. So, autonomous investments which to Higgs represent the growth factor due to the increase in the population as well as in the progress of technology, plays an important role in the determination of trade cycle. So, whatever the changes are taking place because of these investments pattern in the economy will change the pattern of trade cycle, right, moving from expansion to the contraction phase. So, here we have this chart will help you to understand how we are relating this effect of multiplier and accelerator to understand the growth taking place, right. So, here on the x axis we have time, whereas on the y axis we are representing the output and the investments, right. So, look at this these lines, how we are explaining these lines. AA is basically the autonomous investment, right. You can say that this AA shows the path of autonomous investment growing at the constant rate, right, whenever there will be a lowest point taking place in the economy. So, here this line represents the autonomous investments which is made by the government, and this investment is being made without the expectations of getting return on it. Then what is meant by this LL line? LL line is basically the lower equilibrium, right, or this is, you can say, this is the lower equilibrium point. Besides this point, the further slump or trough is not possible, right. Reaching up to this point is the highest lowest point. Besides this point, this contraction is not possible. So, this LL line denotes that. E is basically the point where economy is in equilibrium, right. E is the equilibrium point where the level of output depends upon the autonomous investments made in the economy, and then is FF line is the full employment, right. This is the ceiling line, right, where further expansion is not possible, right. This is the highest point, like we have ceiling of a room and we have floor of the room. So, ceiling point is the lowest point which we are denoting here with LL, and FF is the full employment line which represents that the further expansion beyond this point is not possible. Now, what happens? Let us start from this point where our economy is in equilibrium, right. When the economy is in equilibrium, and at this point when the investments increases in the economy, right, and this leads to the increase in the production of goods and services, which increase in the employment rate, right, which leads to the increase in the income of the people, right, which increases the demand for goods and services, right, which increases the price increases the profit for the firms. So, again our economy will go to the upward phase, right. So, here you can say that from point P O, we started from PO and then we reach to this point which is called as P1, right. So, we reach up to that higher point and during for a period of time we remains there, right. So, here we are reaching from P1 to P2 because this further expansion is not possible. We are at the highest point and all the investments which are supposed to be made are already been done. Now, what will happen from this point? The economy will go down, looking at when the investments reduces in the economy, when the demand for goods and services reduce, then investments will reduce, and when these investments will reduce, production of goods and services will go down, which will increase the unemployment rate, income of the people will be less, and because of lesser income, people will be able to demand less of goods and services. So, that gradually what will happen, we will move from this point P to P3, which represents the contraction phase, whereas or you can call it as a recession as well, and then we move from P3 to Q point where our economy is going into depression, right. And for the period of time we remain here into this depression phase, and then again this autonomous investment takes place, right, where this government will come and make this autonomous investment, and slowly our economy will get into this recovery phase. So, how with the interaction of this investment taking place in the economy and the effect of multiplier and accelerator, what impact will be there in the income of the consumer because of change in the investment, and what change will be take place in the investment because of change in the consumption of goods and services. That is what is basically been explained by the Higgs through his theory, right. Now, if you look at the criticisms of the theory, again this theory has certain criticisms. That first point says that there are wrong assumptions of the constant multiplier accelerator coefficient. Okay. So, whatever the study has been made is been made on the combination or the interaction of multiplier and accelerator, and sometimes this theory has a wrong assumption of constant multiplier and accelerator coefficient, which is not true in the real sense. Another criticism says that highly mechanical and mathematical device, right. Here to understand the business cycle we are using mechanical and mathematical device, which is not a right measures to do. Then we are saying wrong assumption of non-excess capacity. We assume with this theory that there is no access to the capacity, which is not right. We have set the margin that this is the lower point where from without which we are not able to increase the production, and we have also assume that this is the highest point up to which we can go with the production. Okay. So, this wrong assumption of no excess capacity is not the right assumption which we have done with this theory. And lastly, we are saying that full employment ceiling is not independent, right. When we reach to this full employment stage of ceiling, when we are saying that economy is working on the full employment rate, this is not an independent aspect factor which we are studying independently. That is basically because of the effect of investments taking place or the effect of expansion taking place in the economy, right. It is not an independent variable. So, again we do have certain criticisms for this theory also. Now, let us look at the another theory which is given by Samuelson, right. This is the theory given by Samuelson, and the innovation theory was given by Schumpeter, right. So, they are different from each other and given by different people. Professor Samuelson is an eminent economist to build a trade cycle model by again integrating the theory of multiplier and acceleration principle. So, if you look at this theory given by Samuelson, this is not much different from the previous theory which we have talked about, which is related to the Higgs, but yes, Higgs introduced another 3 version of the theory where they have talked about the invariant rate of growth, where they have talked about autonomous investments, and where we have also discussed the effect of multiplier and accelerator. But with the theory of Samuelson, we are only integrating the theory of multiplier and accelerator principle. And to make you explain again what is multiplier and accelerator, multiplier is basically helping us to understand the change in the income taking place because of change in the investments in the economy, whereas accelerator understand and or study the impact of change taking place in the investment because of change in the consumption taking place in the economy, right. So, according to this theory, process of multiplier starts working when autonomous investments takes place, right. So, this change taking place because of the multiplier effect starts in the economy when this autonomous investment takes place, and with this autonomous investments income of people rises, right, because this autonomous investments increase the production, and production increase the employment opportunities, which increases the income of the people, and when there is an increase in the people income, there will be an increase in the demand for consumer goods, right, and it will directly affect the marginal prosperity to consume, right. When there is a demand for more consumer goods, then marginal propensity to consume will also increase. Now, let us look at the criticism of this theory. There are few criticisms regarding this theory, is that this model is only concentrating on impact of multiplier and accelerator, and it ignores the role of producers expectations, right. Here in this theory, we are only understanding how this multiplier and accelerator will affect the phases taking place in the economy, but it ignores the producer expectation, it ignores the changing business requirement as well as the consumer preferences. So, there are different aspects which are needed to be there for these studies, but because of this ignorance of these variables, this theory does not validate the true picture of this business cycle, right. And it is not practically possible to compute the fact of multiplier and accelerator principle, which we actually assumes, right, but in practical it is not possible, right, and it has wrong assumption of constant capital output ratio also. So, again this theory is not very applicable because it has lot of ignorance in this theory and various variables are not being studied carefully, right. Now, let us look at the another theory which help us to explain this business cycle, and this is known as Cobb Web theory. Now, what does this theory relates with? This is been analyzed by Nicholas Codler, and he analyzed this model in 1934, where he gave the term known as Cobb Web theorem. Now, this Cobb Web theorem is the idea that price fluctuation can lead to the fluctuation in supply, which causes a cycle of rising and falling prices. See, this theory is not very practical theory, and this is usually applicable to the farm products, right. And with this theory we are saying that because of change in the supply, right, whenever there is a change in the supply of commodity takes place, their price effects, and because of the change in the prices further their supply get affected. So, it is a kind of a Cobb Web relations we study here regarding the supply and the price of those commodities, and there is a simple thing we say, we understand that when there will be more supply of the commodity in the market, because of any reason the prices of those commodity will reduce, and when the prices will reduce, the supplier would not prefer to sell that commodity, because suppliers believes in the principles where they want to supply more of those commodities whose prices are high in the market, so that they would be able to earn higher returns on them, right. So, in a simple Cobb Web model we assume there is an agricultural market. So, like I said, this is applicable only to the agricultural market, where the supply can vary due to the variable factors such as weather, right. If the weather has a favorable conditions, right. So, in that case the agricultural supply will be more during that year maybe, and if the weather is not supported, maybe the supply will be less. So, based on the supply of that commodity, the prices will get affected. Suppose if somehow any product has a good supply in that particular year, right. So, when the supply will be more, then definitely the price of that commodity will go down, and when the price of that commodity will go down, the people will try to produce less of that commodity, the farmers will produce less of that commodity, right. They will try to produce some other good, okay, so that they would be able to get higher price on that commodity. But anyhow, when they reduce their production and other farmers also reduce producing that particular product, then definitely next year the supply will reduce, and when there will be a reduction in supply of that commodity because of lesser production taking place, definitely the price of that commodity will increase, right. So, if you look at the assumption of this theory, where we are able to understand this theory better, we need to have certain assumption. So, what we assume that in an agriculture market, farmers have to decide how much to produce in a year in advance, right. They make their production decision in advance before they know what will be the market price, right. So, accordingly they understand the price of that commodity and they try to make their production, and a key determinant of supply will be the price from the previous year. What is the price of that commodity in the previous year, accordingly they determine the quantity they would produce, and a lower price will mean some farmers to go out of the business, they would not want to produce that commodity, and also lower price will discourage farmers to grow that crop in the next year. And lastly, we are saying that the demand for agriculture good is usually price elastic, as we have understood this is the price elastic demand is there, right. A fall in the price only cause a smaller percentage increase in the demand, right. So, let us look at the criticism also for this theory. This is not strictly a trade cycle theory, we are although studying it here, but for its concern it is only related to the farming sector, and secondly we are saying this theory assumes that the output is solely governed by the government prices, which is again not a true assumptions which are being made. So, these are some criticisms we have for this theory. So, if you look at the topic for today, we have talked about different theories to understand the different phases of business cycle. I hope it is all clear to every one of you. Different theories have been discussed based on different assumptions, and they also have their different criticisms for these theory. This is all for today's class. These are some reference books we have taken for this lecture. That is all for today. Thank you all of you.